Okay, today we're going to do a build video on the 25% larger Marvin robot. This is the one that's based off the BBC TV version of Hitchhiker's Guide of the Paranoid robot. The first one I did back here, we've already got videos on it, is using this small N20 motor for the walking and of course there were light functions. This one I want to use the easier to find TT gear motor. The blue one means it's got the metal gears in it. There's about a 90-to-1 gear reduction in the blue one. But in order to fit it in, I have to bring the files up 25% bigger. So kind of give you a reference. Here's the new head versus the first head. You can see it's quite a bit bigger. Well, it's 25% bigger. And I'm going to start, we'll talk about the body. Of course, this is more than just the body because it has the arms and it has the shoulder parts that the arms hook to. So these are three pieces. The arms you can see have a split, so I can print them without having to do supports anywhere except on the inside of the claws, and it'll make all the details and everything look a lot better. So you've got the two parts of the arms. This would be the right arm, so there's a part A and a part B in the right arm, and then you got this shoulder disc, which on the inside, I don't know if I need this light on. Let me try to get this light to turn on. There we go. On the inside you can see there's a screw right there with a spring, and the screw with the spring goes in and screws into the shoulder disc, and then the arm glues onto the shoulder disc, and that way you can pose the arms however you want them to be. Now on this one, on the 25% larger one, I went ahead and opened up this chest opening here so we could put in color changing LED in there too to give a little more action to what's going on in the chest. And there's going to be a similar LED, color changing LED inside the head. You can see got a current limiting resistor, bring a couple of wires out, and I'm aiming the LED straight to the back where I've put some foil. So here's the front, so the LED's right about in the nose, aiming backwards. So it lights up the whole inside of the head and gives a really good, nice eye effect. This head prints vertically on the bed as you're seeing it right here. No supports. Once I painted it with this kind of metallic metal flake silver color, then I wrapped just the neck ring in aluminum duct tape, as they call it, for duct work. So now we'll get back to this body, which is where we kind of start. So the main part of the body, and then there's the battery door, which of course is a separate piece, because this big door piece here prints flat with supports only on the inside part where you can't see it. And then this piece that moves right here, that's a separate piece, and then the knob that you glue on the top, that's another piece. Now when using a battery holder in here, I'm going to be running this off of 3 AA batteries. Now you could just go in there with the AAAs and would give it a lower profile, because I found that with the batteries that run a wider width, they're thicker, like your Duracells, your ones from your Kirkland batteries. In this case, these are Thunderbolts. They're bigger around, and that's just enough where this underside of this part right here, where that sticks up, hits them. So when you go to close this thing, you got to apply some force before you can slide that over and lock it. Whereas if I put in like dollar store batteries or older batteries, or not as big around, then this fits right on without that. Now, getting back to the gear motor, I want to run this gear motor on 3 volts, so that's just 2 batteries. But I wanted to go ahead and put in the 3 because your color changing LEDs, in order to work right, really need over 3 volts so they don't act up. So what I decided to do on the battery case, so here's a battery case, got this red wire, which is your positive, comes right off here, And then right down here on this negative side, you'll see that there's a trace that takes it clear over to that. I'm going to solder another wire off of that, and you can either go on the bottom side and then notch that so the wire can come out, or you can actually just feed the wire through that hole and then solder right onto here. In either case, you want to make sure you're not applying heat for too long, because if the wire gets really hot, this is just plastic, you're going to goof up your battery box. But what that gives you is a common ground for everything. It gives you your 4.5 volts, which we're going to be using for running the flashing LEDs. And then this one that we're bringing out here will give us the 3 volts that I'm going to run to the gear motor, because I like the speed that it runs better at 3 volts. In order to switch that, the standard slide switch that I always like to use that has the 19 millimeters between mounting holes, it's also a double pole, double throw switch. And what that means, for you that don't know, is this center contact is your common, and if it's over in this position here, these two are connected together. If it's over here, then the center and this one. So basically it's either connecting here, it's connecting here, and that's how you can use it as an on-off. But as you can see, there are 2 rows of them. So this whole row is isolated from this row. So it's 2 separate switches controlled by one handle. So I'm going to use one side. I'm going to bring up the 4.5 volts for the LED, and then run a wire that back inside for the LEDs. And on this side, I'm going to bring that new wire that we connected to the battery box, the 3 volts, and run a wire out that to run the motor. Just using my standard double pole, double throw switch. In most of my applications, I'm just using it as an on-off switch, so I actually just take and bend these all together and solder them. Just gives you more current capability, longevity, you know. So that covers the switch, the battery holder. To glue the battery holder in, since it's a dissimilar plastic from the PLA, I'm going to be using the E6000 because it'll join the two together. There are slot holes up there for passing wires, plenty of room on the side to run the 3 volt and the 4.5 volt wires down, and to bring them through there are holes in the bottom of the battery box so I can feed them in and feed them out. Okay. The frame, which all of the legs connect to this, and the gear motor, which already has the cams pushed on it, obviously. The gear motor is going to fit right down in there. I am snipping off, there's a little tab that sticks on the bottom of these gear motors. I've put in this center piece. It separates the 2 legs to keep the legs from rubbing together, and that tab originally wasn't a problem because I had a slot for it, but now that I've got that piece in there, you'd have to just snip that tab out of the way. Ran 2 wires off of the motor, which I'm going to run up. It doesn't matter which one's positive and which one's negative in this case. And I went ahead and put a decoupling capacitor across the motor, anything from a 0.1 to whatever you got laying around, you know, 4 UF, 10 UF, anything like that, but a 0.1 is a good choice. It helps minimize the noise that the brushes on this motor are going to throw back into the batteries, which could goof up how the LED lights work. So it helps clean that up a little bit. Now what I've got running over here, which you can hear is noisy from time to time, this is the Bamboo Labs A1 mini printer. And basically it can print at a higher quality than my Prusa MK3S, which these parts were printed on. This body piece, not the arms, just the body piece, this is a 9.5 hour print. And that's just at standard settings. That's not even at a high setting. This one with the same quality, standard settings at 0.2 layer height, 0.2, is only going to take 3 hours. So it's 3 times faster, and the print quality is going to be even better. So really quite amazing for a small little printer. So I'm doing a speed test on it now. That body, when it gets done, I'll go ahead and paint it, and I'll do a separate video where we can compare it with this one and see how it ended up doing. I'm just doing a little speed test on that right now. Okay, next assembly I want to talk about, let's get this out of the way. We're going to talk about the foot assemblies. So this whole bottom piece, when I printed these parts, I only had orange filament. The gray hadn't arrived yet, so I ended up having to paint them all. You have a base, and you have a left and a right, and then you have the wheels, which have the little rubber grommets on them. And in this case, I'm just using finishing nails. Stuck a nail in there, found a nail that fit nicely on the wheel, shoved it in, cut it, put a little bit of glue on the end of it before I pushed it in to hold it in place. And it's the same wheel, front and rear, rubber grommets on both sides, same size nail going in. And then because it's printed in the same color, it might be hard to see, but you see that straight line and that knot there in the straight line? That's the actual ratchet arm, and it slides through a slot right there, and you put a drop of glue on it and slide it in, and on the back side it goes under to hit the wheel to form a ratchet, and on the front side it comes up and goes to the top. Maybe we can hear the clicking, maybe not. You will when it's all put together. So that forms the ratchets in the bottom part of the feet. And like I say, there is a left and a right foot base, just as there is a cover that goes over this when it's all put together, and there's a left and a right on that too. The legs come down. Since the legs almost touch, you can see in this one, the wide part's going to be sticking to the outside in all these cases. Now the leg part itself that interface with it is actually made up of 3 pieces. This whole leg piece here is actually one piece. This piece that's moving is a separate piece. We're going to talk about that. It actually prints like this on end, and it puts supports in these places required down here, because that's inside the robot where it doesn't show. So that way, if you print it this way, all of this can be printed without support, and it's not going to mess up the appearance of the part. Now this front piece, well, there's a left and a right leg also. On this linkage piece, there's not a left and a right. The same linkage piece will work in either leg. This bottom part here, in order to get it in there, as you can see, there's a notch. So we actually run the part down through the leg, put the glue on there, and push it in place till it's dried. And actually I think it'd be better if this hump, which sticks up, it's flat here, I think if I'd flipped it over and done it the other way, I would have liked the stance on the robot just a little bit better. But this is the way I put these legs together, so we'll see how it turns out here, because I really don't know yet. We're going to find out together. When one of the legs is assembled all the way, it's going to look like this. So you have your ratchets, you have your foot, you have your leg, you've got your linkage. The small little linkage part we talked about, this is the front obviously, since this is the toe. And this cam part back here, cam follower, is the rear. I'm using 4mm brass rod, which you can buy at any hobby store, but I just ordered this. I can't remember if I got it off eBay or off Amazon, one or the other. But just get that, and you're going to be cutting different lengths of that to do the job. Got these shorter ones, and basically all these have to do in order to figure out what the right length is they have to be able to fit inside here, side to side. The easiest way to do that is you put them in your foot piece and then just make sure that they're inside the outside here, so that when we put the shell on the top, it'll hold those locked in place. And of course there's one in the front and one in the back. All the holes may print tight depending on your filament and your printer, so all of the holes whether it's on these linkage parts, or whether it was in this foot part, or whether it was in this motor base. I went ahead and ran through it with a drill bit. Now, of course, you could buy a 4mm drill bit and do that. In my case, I just went through and used my numbered drill bits till I found something that was just slightly larger than 4mm, so I knew that these would fit easily. I'm going to show you how this is going to assemble without the cover on, because it'll be easier for you to see. Because what we're talking about doing is, see, pinning that front one like this, and there. So those get pinned, and then when the foot cover is on, that holds these in place. But then you can see how that's going to work. Now it gets more complicated when you're trying not to drop these and keep an angle for the camera to see. So I don't know how well this is going to go. But like I said, just remember when you do this, this will end up being a left foot, because this part of the cam follower faces towards the outside of the body, so the fat part of the foot is going to face that way. You can slip this piece up as far as it'll go, and then you're going to want to try to start working these pins in. And like I said earlier, I don't know that I can do this and stay in front of the camera at the same time. But that's why I showed you what it was going to look like with the foot shell off. Okay, I got the front one in. And got the rear one. And then when we glue that foot cover down, that's going to hold all of that stuff in place. Let's see if we can do that without losing anything. To glue the PLA to the PLA, I'm going to go ahead and go in there with this weld on number 16. And you have to see whether the end is kind of dried up a little. I need to clear that out. Okay. Not going to be easy to do and not lose these brass things, but basically I just want to put a drop on the edge. I'm going to put it in a couple of places. A little bit there. A little bit there. Try to look to see if I was even in camera. Alright. Capping off the glue so it doesn't dry up on me. And just kind of hold this here for a second. We'll see if we had any luck. If it doesn't stick with that, then I'll go back and then use the E6000, because I painted the parts. The paint could be blocking the glue from melting the PLA, because this really is a bond with the PLA, actually melts it. So now we come back to this part where we slip the motor in. We've got one leg here. As you can see, this is facing towards the outside. This is facing towards the front of the robot. I'm going to put that in there. And what I'm trying to line up is this front part here into here. The other leg will go into there, and then we'll pin it. So I have these longer brass rods that are cut the width of this. Again, I don't believe I can hold it where the camera can see what I'm doing, but that's why I tried to explain to you what I'm doing. There we go. Got the front one. So now we can see how this one is pinned, and in order to put the other leg in, I have to have these out far enough to get it in there and line it up. Point is that once both legs are in there and pinned, these pins should be flush with the sides of this gearbox assembly. So when we shove it up inside the body will hold these pins in place so they can't go anywhere. So here's our other foot assembly, the one that we just made. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, so I've got the rear one in place. Now we just have to try to manipulate the front one. I need the lighting so I can see what I'm doing and not spend so much time trying to worry about the camera angle. I think I can reach down in there and center this piece up with a screwdriver if necessary, and then go down in that leg hole like so. That would appear to be the easiest way to do it. Okay, so I guess at this point a person could just grab some batteries and just check to see if things are working before you go any further. Not that you can really see with me in the way. Come on. Okay. So with 3 volts it seemed to be working. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shove that whole assembly in there and fish the wires up the neck hole, and we'll deal with the wires later. Main thing is just to get them there. These wires are a lot stiffer than I care to use, but they're what I had laying around. Like I say, the flat part's the front, so there's the front. So this whole assembly, and I just go in there like that. And if those rods are pushed in place, then we should be able to pop it right on down. Now you could put a drop of glue in that if you wanted to make sure that they never separate, but I'm not too worried about it. Besides, if something goes wrong and I have to shoot this video again, I don't want it glued to where I can't take it apart. And I'm fishing the wires around to where I want them to be. There we go. So, got a red wire sitting here that should be the 3 volts. With some solder on it, but apparently wasn't enough. So So I ran the motor wire to the 3-volt tap. Got the black wire sitting right here. Let's see where's the best way to do this. Sorry if the camera isn't showing you anything. But you know what I'm doing. I'm soldering black to black. Or trying to anyway. Alright. Now for the moment of truth. Okay, so that's working. I guess we might as well put the battery door on. We're done talking about what's going on back there. So what that really leaves at this point then is the head. And it's going to solder to the same place that the other LED soldered to. I don't want to lay it down to do this. Right. Let's check the head. Okay, the head is lighting also. So at this point, all the person really needs to do is to either put some heat shrink tubing around these soldered wires or tape them up real good, and then just glue the head down on the body. There's lots of room for stuffing the extra wire down in there. I'm going to move the ground wire over to the side. Like so. And let's take the positive wire for the lighting, move it over to the opposite side, like so. And of course, you can't do all that without messing up some wiring, like that. Alright, so really the only wire I've got to worry about is this one right here. And if I can find I wasn't thinking ahead. I don't have electrical tape or heat shrink tubing. I'm going to put some E6000 on there. I thought I had some electrical tape on here. I'll look once more. I guess not. Okay, we're going to end the video here because I really want to cover that connection properly before I glue the head on. I'll do a follow-up video showing this guy and the other guys all working at the same time. That'd probably be the way to go.